Welcome on into the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. On today's episode, I want to discuss 3 free agents that ESPN linked to Denver and talk about whether or not they'd be a good fit for the Broncos, how realistic it is, and ultimately what it would cost. So the first free agent that was connected to the Broncos by an ESPN reporter, Bill Barnwell, is wide receiver Keenan Allen, our old AFC West foe from the Chargers, who just wrapped up his first season with the Bears, is a free agent, and I think surface level, this does make some level of sense, right? Why did the Bears bring in Keenan Allen to begin with? They wanted to give Caleb Williams a veteran receiver to work with. Now, the production wasn't terrific for Keenan, but they also had to fire their offensive coordinator halfway through the year because he reportedly wasn't even watching film with Caleb Williams. It was that big of a disaster. They had Keenan Allen in a spot where they wanted him going on deep go routes at the age of 33. So shame on the Bears for not using Allen correctly, but I still think he can play and start in the NFL. This is what Barnwell wrote specifically, though. There are competitive teams where his ability to feel out holes in zone coverage would be valuable as a second or third wideout, with the Broncos coming to mind as a logical landing spot. And I agree with Bill here. I could get behind this signing because there is a lot of truth to what he is saying. Is he going to be a number one? No, not at this point. But could he be maybe more of what you were hoping to get out of a tight end that Denver didn't this past year, a bit of a safety blanket over the middle of the field to move the sticks? Yeah, I think Allen's capable of doing that. I think he's at the stage of his career where he's probably not going to beat you with his incredible blazing speed, but what he is going to beat you with is his ability to start reading the defense as he gets out of his break and see where the soft spot is, find it, sit in it, and let the ball come to him and move the chains. So I am open to the idea of adding Allen to this wide receiver room. It wouldn't be very expensive, and I don't think it's going to stunt the growth of any of the young receivers. Whereas if you go out and acquire T. Higgins, that's someone who you immediately put at the front of the line. Whereas Allen got Cortland Sutton still, Devon Vele, Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, those last 4 guys can kind of rotate in, and they can all be used when their skill set is called on. So I like the idea of Denver pursuing Keenan Allen. I think there is a lot of pros behind it. Also, you look at the breakout Marvin Mims had at the end of 2024. He's your go guy, right? He is your true not X-receiver, but a run down the sideline and just run past everyone. Use your speed to your best ability. That's not Keenan's game anymore. So this would help kind of form a well-rounded wide receiver room for the Broncos. I think you could get him on a 1-year, $10 million contract. Maybe it's going to end up being a little bit more because it's not a very good receiver draft class, which is good news for all free agent wide receivers. But I'd play ball with a 1-year contract to help Bo Nix out here in year number 2. So I'm open to the idea of signing Allen. Who knows if Keenan, for how long he played with the Chargers, has any interest in playing with the Broncos. I think at this point of his career, he might be a little picky about where he wants to go play and live, and it might just be I either want to go back to LA, play for the Chargers, or play for the Rams, or stay in Chicago because I'm here right now, and I don't want to pack up and move to a third new city. So that's definitely something that factors into veteran players' decision-making processes, but the Broncos should at least kick the tires on this one. So would you sign Keenan Allen if you were in charge? If I was told, hey, the Broncos just signed Keenan Allen, my reaction's not going to be bad move right there. It's probably not going to cost you a lot of money. I don't see a lot of downside to it. I see some upside for Bo Nix's development. Second free agent target, Nick Bolton. So speaking of AFC West foes, the Chiefs linebacker. He was listed on an ESPN Top 50 Free Agents article with the Broncos being labeled as a best destination. So let's get a little bit familiar. Take the name tag off really quickly, Moose, with Mr. Nick Bolton. So coming off last year, that's not me. 106 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, and Pro Football Focus ranked him kind of right in the middle of all inside linebackers. He's got some good playmaking abilities to his game. You can see the pass rush upside. He's probably not the best cover linebacker in the NFL, and listen, that's becoming an increasingly important trait in a modern defense because of how many 3 wide receiver sets we see. The linebacker has more coverage duties today than they did 10, 15 years ago. But there is a lot of smoke right now around the Broncos going after an inside linebacker. Starting with Sean Payton himself saying, we want an inside linebacker. And Zach Bond's name comes up a bunch. Now I've got Nick Bolton's name coming up a bunch. It's starting to snowball a little bit here. So it may not be Nick Bolton, but I think an inside linebacker signing is coming. Cody Barton's a free agent. Singleton's coming off a torn ACL. He's 32 years old. There are some cap savings to be had by moving on from him. Don't rule out Denver just blowing up the inside linebacker position and going after that spot in free agency and then again in the draft and maybe a cheap second free agent signing as well. My prediction right now, mid-February, the biggest contract the Broncos give out in free agency is going to go to an inside linebacker. I don't think they're going to spend big at wide receiver. I don't think they're going to spend big at running back or tight end. And so I think they're going to try and lure one of these top inside linebackers, Bond or Bolton, someone to that magnitude, and it's probably going to cost you between $35 to $40 million. So you want a hot take right now? Biggest total contract given out will be going to an inside linebacker. Third and final free agent target, running back Aaron Jones. We've talked about Jones before. He continues to come up when we look at running back targets for the Broncos. Denver was listed as a best destination for him on this ESPN Top 50 Free Agents article. Here's what Matt Bowen wrote. Jones has the traits that Denver coach Sean Payton wants at running back. He's a slasher in the run game and has the dual threat traits to catch the ball out of the backfield and produce on screens. I don't disagree with anything Matt's saying right here. When you look at Jones's makeup and his profile as a player, he does check the box of, I wouldn't say that joker, but like not far off of it. He's got good receiving abilities. We saw that a lot in Green Bay. The only concern is he's on the wrong side of 30, and do teams feel like, hey, his best days are behind him. Don't reward him for what he did with another team, and you won't get that same production on your team, right? Don't pay him for what he did with Minnesota. Pay him for what you think he can do in Denver. And if you don't think you can replicate those types of numbers next year, then it's probably best to keep your money in your pockets. But Denver's going to add a running back. I expect them to go out and sign a running back in free agency, probably come back at the draft as well. Javonte Williams is not coming back. I think they were hopeful that Jaleel McLaughlin could take a bigger step forward in year 2. He improved in pass protection, but from a receiving ability, it wasn't quite there. There's Tyler Bidet, who looked good for a little bit, but then we didn't see him for a long stretch. And then rookie Audric Estime was just a rookie, so I won't make any big conclusions on him. I think we're going to see, like I said, though, a veteran running back signing, maybe like Aaron Jones, along with a rookie in the first 2 days of the draft added to this running back room. And they're going to completely gut or close to it and remodel this running back room. Might be the last time we see highlight reel Jaleel, which is a bummer because it's been great to see his path as a UDFA and getting some meaningful, not just snaps, but a large role on this Broncos offense the past 2 seasons, but just didn't quite take that step forward in year 2 that they were hoping for. I mean, there are people saying, like, cut Javonte before the season because McLaughlin's going to be such a big piece of this offense, and that never really took off. So Estime as a rookie is probably going to be safe for the second year on the team, and maybe they roll with 4 running backs, but it may very well be Estime, a new rookie, and a veteran like Aaron Jones. To wrap up today's episode, I want you guys to name a Broncos player who scored a touchdown in 2024. I'm going to kind of box you guys in a little bit here, so think about it for a second. I've got my name already. I like my name too. Oh, I keep stepping on my cord, sorry. 3, 2, 1. Nate Atkins. You might have thought, no way he's thinking of the backup tight end. Oh, no. I'm all over Nate Atkins. So let me know who you said down below and if you also said Nate Atkins as a touchdown recipient this past year for the Broncos.